You're listening to Feel Good Astrology with Louisa Tanner Munson. To request a personal reading with Louisa, go to www.feelgoodastrology.com.
Hi, it's Louisa Tanner Munson from Feel Good Astrology, and I'd like to welcome you to this podcast about the North Node going through the 8th house, or being in the 8th house at birth. So a large part of this will be talking about your 8th house natal North Node, i.e. if you're born with it in the 8th house, and then moving on to the effects that it creates in your life when it transits, i.e. moves through the 9th house. So I guess to fully understand that, we need to have a kind of working knowledge of the North Node and also an idea of what the 8th house entails. So the North Node is, I like to see it as a signpost, a karmic signpost showing us where we are going in life, the direction that life is going to bring us to, because obviously most of us think we're quite self-directed, but life seems to have a habit of throwing certain things in our way to sort of position ourselves in new directions. And the North Node shows what we're moving towards. Now, in complete opposition to the North Node is the South Node. And for those of you that believe in past lives, then the South Node represents the lives that we're coming from, or our accumulated karma in that field. So the position of the South Node in our birth charts describes what we've already grown accomplished at doing and experiencing in our lives, and how we enjoy expressing ourselves. And the North Node really shows where we're going and what we're trying to learn and what we're trying to express. And it doesn't show what's easy necessarily, it just shows the direction we're heading in. So these two work hand in hand. Now, because we need to consider the 8th house, we also need to consider what comes in opposition to the 8th house, and that's the 2nd house. Because if you're born with an 8th house North Node, you're also born with a 2nd house South Node. And the thing that the South Node and the thing that the 2nd house and the 8th house have in common is that they're both about values and resources, and are expressed in different ways. So the 2nd house is about our personal values. It can represent our personal cash, our ability to make cash, our struggles with finances and resources. So, think about all the total resources you've got. So it's not necessarily about being cash rich. Some people are really resource rich. Like they're always able to find friends, they're always able to find food or grow food or create their own resources in some way. So it's very much about our resourcefulness, and from a value perspective about our personal values. So the things that are principles, our guiding principles, our guiding morality, I guess. So all of that is captured in the 2nd house, and having the South Node in your 2nd house shows that you're coming into this life with a certain amount of expertise with managing your finances or managing your resources and understanding how to do that. Which brings us to the North Node, which is what you're currently working on in this lifetime. Now, the 8th house is to do with other people's money, and other people's resources, and also all those issues, all those judgments and labels that people come up with, and things that they struggle to talk about. I mean, imagine all the subjects that you don't normally mention on a first date or the first time you meet somebody. They might include birth, death, sex, sexual preference, our secrets, how much money we earn, how much money we have access to, our loans, our debts, etc., our taxes. The 8th house is very much about birth, death, and taxes. So it's quite a secretive place, and it's often a place of ancestral secrets, and understanding them. So having the North Node in the 8th house is showing you that you've already come into this world with an understanding of resources, and that your biggest challenge in this lifetime is with other people's resources, and managing your money from an external perspective. So rather than, being very responsible for your income, the North Node in the 8th house is kind of encouraging you to consider how your income can come from other sources. So for instance, bank loans, mortgages, money through marriage, money through inheritance, money through law cases. The 8th house is very much about transformation, because it deals with such deep and sometimes embarrassing subjects that the themes of the 8th house are rarely spoken about, because we feel shame and embarrassment and guilt, especially if they've got anything to do with ancestral healing or ancestral abuse patterns, which often show up in the 8th house. So you might have a challenge with managing your resources as a child when you're living at home, or feel like there's a scarcity, or feel like there's guilt surrounding money from what you've learned at home. Maybe you never felt like there was enough. Maybe there's such a strong independence to earn your own resources and be completely resourceful that you're unwilling to work in cooperation with other people's finances. There is a certain kind of necessity with the North Node in the 8th house and a willingness to work with other people and their strong values and resourcing systems. So whether it's actual finance or their actual views on life and their experience and their secrets, it's not unheard of with the 8th house to find out that there have been ancestral family secrets have kept the family in a certain pattern, a certain secretive pattern, that everyone's kind of agreed to this narrative. And so having the North Node in the 8th house can show quite a lot of difficulties in adapting to the family narrative and understanding how to transcend it. So these are huge themes to have your North Node in. It's not the easiest of places. From a sexual perspective, the North Node shows that your learning could be about sexuality and sexual expression and secrets, and how to manage those in a way. It wouldn't be unheard of to find extramarital things going on in the 8th house, because it's so secretive, it's so sexual, and also there's a certain amount of shame possibly attached to it. So wherever we feel sort of discomfort and this feeling of we can't really talk about this, there's a place of transformation, because actually the whole of the 8th house is about transformation. And I guess that's why all of those subjects are captured within the 8th house, because the ones that create feelings of shame or anxiety and guilt are the ones that highlight to us where our opportunities for transformation are. So, if you've got your North Node in the 8th house, it wouldn't be unheard of for you to work in the field of transformation, in the field of allowing and letting go of shame, guilt and anger and hurt, and delving into the secrets and bringing them to the light of day. Now, naturally, the 8th house is ruled by the sign of Scorpio, of course, which is known for its secrets and also its sting in its tail. And it's ruled by Pluto, the ruler of the underworld, and also the planet to do with transformation and transcendence. So the themes here, having the North Node in the 8th house, is really showing that your life's journey is in transformation and rising out of the ashes of the honesty, and sort of recognizing exactly what was going on in your life, and recognizing what other people and their values have brought into your life and how that affects you. So it's a huge inheritance to be born with, having the North Node in your 8th house. It's not an easy one by any stretch of the imagination. Now, if the North Node is currently going through your 8th house. It will have recently been in the 9th house, which shows that what you were working on in the last couple of years, the year and a half, has been to do with becoming an expert and broadening your spiritual belief patterns and systems and becoming more philosophical, possibly traveling. Where you've just been for the last 18 months has created an awakening of sorts for you. A psychic, karmic feeling of that was really meant to be, I was really meant to expand myself, and boy, did I have a good time. Your belief systems will probably have been completely rerouted and rewritten and shifted fundamentally from what you've experienced in the last 18 months, which brings us on to the North Node going into the 8th house. So if you've currently got the North Node in the 8th house, whether you're at the beginning of the 8th house transit or whether it's towards the end, what you're going through is a period of adaptation, a period of bringing your newfound belief systems and philosophies into your life at a deeper level, because all of the things that you've experienced and upgraded in your own mind-body system, or your new philosophies and thoughts and experiences from being open-minded, are now being called to be applied into your personal life. So you're being challenged to share your new way of being with those people with whom you might have a secret narrative with, i.e., a narrative based on how it's always been. The most obvious example is your family, the family that you grew up with, because you probably weren't given the chance or choice to create your narrative. You're probably told what the family narrative was, and very few people disagree with the narrative, because if they do, they face alienation, which is another theme of the 8th house. And also inheritances and money being passed down to people and resources being shared with people is often conditional in families. If you upset your family, you might be struck off the inheritance, because there's an inability to talk it through. And so what's going on for you right now is, from your new, altered and upgraded spiritual mindset, your karmic challenge is, how can you integrate that into your family narrative, or how can you relate that and fit it into your relationship narrative or your friendship narrative in a way that's not going to create punishment for you. It's a very, very tricky one to do. It's much easier if you haven't already got solid attachments, but if you are a family person or in a long-term relationship, then this can cause some fundamental challenges as you jostle between both of your value systems and feelings and relationships to money. Often when we've gone through quite a spiritual, philosophical upgrading of thinking, we change the way we work, we change the way we want to earn our money, and that can cause huge impacts if you share your life with somebody in a financial way. So there's all sorts of things going on. It could also represent death, that you're having an experience of death right now. And I'm not necessarily talking about you, but when your North Node goes to the 8th house, then themes of death and rebirth are absolutely key in your life. So it could be something to do with a family member getting ill and possibly dying, and needing to understand the impacts of that and trying to process it. But it's the death of one phase of life and the movement into another. So for instance, hitting the menopause is another way, or becoming a mum, and transforming your body. So all aspects of transformation are covered during the time when the North Node goes into the 8th house. So that's not necessarily the most comfortable position to have your 8th house, to have your North Node in the 8th house. And it's not necessarily the most comfortable transit of the North Node in your lifetime. That said, it's one of the ones that can bring some of the huge, the biggest and most rewarding differences. So take it easy, my friend, if you're going through this. And of course, if any of these themes have struck a chord and you'd like to talk it through with me, then feel free to just drop me a line. You can reach me, Louisa, at feelgoodastrology.com, to book a consultation. Anyway, take care for now. Bye-bye.
You've been listening to Feel Good Astrology with Louisa Tanner Munson, and this recording has been made possible by all you lovely supporters at Patreon. To request a personal reading with Louisa, go to www.feelgoodastrology.com.